I go to Aurora, and I cross Main Street and Washington Street every time I do that, and many of you do the same. So I would suggest to you that the specifics of it are perhaps for a discussion at a later time, when experts and others can give their points of view, and again, key stakeholders can decide. But if we all are to enjoy an urban lifestyle, traffic is not only a part of an urban lifestyle, but it's part of what makes it vibrant and healthy.
What about the parking part of that question?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, parking. You know, we've done some sketch site plans, but we certainly have to try to have as much off-street parking as possible. We could probably meet the zoning. I would suggest to you that meeting the zoning is probably about 120 parking spaces. Our proposal likely, and it's not drawn up yet, will be less than that, and we probably would go to a variance for parking because we believe that the pedestrian aspects of this are just as important as the vehicular aspects. So I'm guessing 90 or 100 spaces would be available on site, and that we would make the argument in either a variance or a waiver at planning and zoning that the nature of this facility is that it will have a significant amount of walkers, but that to the extent that vehicles are going to use the site to come from out of town or from another part of town, that there would be adequate and safe parking off-street. Sorry.
Yeah, it still begs the question.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
It still begs the question. You know, we're downtown. Downtown is already congested enough. Yeah, I can't see it improved by bringing more in. I mean, you're gonna come up with some kind of like cloverleaf or some alleviate or something. I don't see anything. You have to be pretty creative to make it less congested than it is already now.
I hope it gets more congested. I don't think I would ever make the argument that it's less. We want downtown to be busy and vibrant and healthy.
It's already quite congested at times.
Okay. That's a point of view that that is certainly relevant. Yeah, sir. I think you're.
Okay. I am, by the way, a WSA representative of the class of 2014, and the point that was just made has to do with congestion. Well, I think that congestion not only is part of urban life, but it already happens by the bookstore. And if we wanted to be as close to the main street as possible, frankly, I think we should leave the bookstore where it is. It's 1 block west of Main Street. So how would you propose it would be in a more urban location?
I think the point is that it would be a location that would be visible and available to folks in and outside of the Wesleyan community, that it would become a place for people to patronize, that would have an opportunity to bring the brand of Wesleyan University.
And what do you mean by
to the Route 66 Washington Street corridor?
Okay, and another question, branding. Wesleyan has had a difficult history with branding. The website had a particular controversy a couple of years ago when they tried to describe, quote unquote, the typical Wesleyan student. And I think that there are many in the Wesleyan community who may be averse to some sort of branding. What elements of the brand, as it were, would you want to emphasize?
It's not for me to decide, that's for the school to decide, but from our point of view, bringing Wesleyan to the Main Street and Washington Street corridor is beneficial to the community. To the extent that Wesleyan itself has an opinion or a desire to do that or not is really up to the university to decide. But from a person who enjoys the Main Street, Washington Street corridor on a daily basis, having Wesleyan be visible and having it become a part of the business community in that area, to me, is a benefit. As not a Wesleyan person, but as someone who is invested and enjoys what happens downtown in Middletown.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry.
You are mentioning that you anticipate that this will bring together the Wesleyan community and the Main Street community. And I think my concern is that bringing in national change, bringing in sort of a coffee shop or food service, my worry is that might detract from the Main Street. We have some really great local businesses on Main Street, including a lot of restaurants. If bringing in national chains might tend to direct some Wesleyan students to those chains instead of directing them to Main Street?
I mean, I think that's a fair point. I will tell you that I'm a Piccolo disciple. In the last 3 weeks, I've gone to Dunkin' Donuts, Piccolo, Brew Bakers, and Java, Blue, whatever the other one is. I go to all of them. Yeah, and so and I believe 2 Dunkin' Donuts have surfaced in the past year or two, and all of the coffee shops do well. So it's a legitimate point, but I don't know that it's part of this discussion this afternoon, but I would just simply say that we will try to support independent and independently owned businesses as well as nationals, and we haven't made any decisions about any tenants. They're in discussion, and it's certainly something that we can discuss going forward. I just want to try this side of the room, just to give everybody. Anyone? This gentleman in the back, yeah.
I would like to get back to the first point about the safety of Washington Street.
Okay.
I don't know how often you've driven up Washington Street in the afternoon.
Rush hour.
When the sun is going down. You're completely blind. You're just hoping there's nothing in front of you.
Yes.
I mean, I drive it every single day. I walk it most fair weather days that I'm in town. And I would say to you that it's a busy street. So is Main Street, and so is every commercial
Main Street runs the other direction. Washington Street runs east and west. And in the afternoon, if you're going up Washington Street, visibility is almost zero. And you can have crosswalks, but that doesn't mean somebody isn't going to think, oh, I can get across.
I've crossed Washington Street 1,000 times in the past 5 years. It's busy, but if you do it safely and responsibly, I've never had an issue. I haven't heard of there being a pattern of issues that we should be concerned about, but certainly your point is well taken.
People die on that street.
Yeah.
I heard her head, it sounded like a watermelon.
Yeah. Anyone else, sir?
Just a couple questions about, as far as the proposed bookstore. How large of the space are you proposing?
Between 8,000 and 10,000 square feet.
Okay, so about the same or a little, the current bookstore I think is about 8,000 square feet.
I believe.
Yeah, it's the current bookstore is about 8. We're going to be 10,000 square feet.
Okay.
So.
Okay. The other question I have is, if for some reason you don't come to an agreement with the several national bookstore chains that you are meeting with, or Wesleyan decides not to move the bookstore there, is this project still going forward without that, or is it contingent upon Wesleyan's bookstore?
Good question. We probably would, we right now have the full support of the chamber and the mayor's office. We probably would go forward with a proposal with a 2-floor building, not a 3-floor building, that would exclude the 2nd floor bookstore, but keep 1st floor retail and our office use for Green Skies and Centerplan Development. We have about 10,000 square feet at 10 Main Street, and we have about 55 employees, and we're busting out at the seams. So we probably would look to do that. Sir in the back.
My name is Andrew Watt. I'm a graduate of Wesleyan, class of 2002, and I live on Pearl Street. And I teach locally, and I know from what class that I took here at Wesleyan that urban areas, buildings face the street. But in this drawing here, the parking is in the front of the building. That parking, if I'm not mistaken, is directly across the street from Russell House, which is one of the jewels of architecture in this town. And that corner that's facing us in the drawing that's second from the right is directly across from our Memorial Park. Now, Washington Street,
You're blocked off.
blocks off.
Blocked down.
Yeah, we're down
Nonetheless,
Well, it is across from Russell House.
it's diagonally across from Memorial Park, isn't it?
So,
Russell House and Washington Street are 2 of this city's 200-year-old corridors, right? Main Street along the water, the river, the bridge, Route 66. These are the things that have made Middletown successful. And yet your building is pulled back from the street. And I wonder why it has to be there. Can it come up to the street so that it represents the urban fabric that you say that it is?
I would suggest to you that that's a planning issue, and maybe. It wasn't meant to imply any specificity other than to give you images, and so if we go beyond this point, we certainly would consider that as part of our planning process.
Yeah, and I would just add to that. I mean, it's a good point, well made and timely. It's actually one point that we're wrestling with as we speak. As Bob mentioned, these are kind of preliminary schematics. These drawings, the building will not likely look like this. This is just to indicate the direction, the size, and kind of the orientation of the project. But in terms of pulling the building to the street, it's something that we're working with Jeff with presently to try to figure out how we can resolve that. So it's a good point, and we are certainly wrestling with it.
Ma'am?